Okay, good morning, everyone. This morning is a public caucus on the 2023 audit. We have with us today our CFO, Dave Bolzoni, and Tim Mira, who did the audit from the firm Zelenkowski Axelrod, LLC. Since this is a public caucus for informational purposes only, there will be no public comment portion of this caucus. Mr. Mira will present the information, and then if Commissioner Chermak and I have questions, we will ask them at the end. Okay? Turn it over to Mr. Mira to present the 2023 audit.
All right, thank you, Bill. My name is Tim Mira. I'm a partner with Zelenkowski Axelrod, and I was the lead on the 2023 audit of Lackawanna County. Thank you for having me here to present the results of our audit presentation to you. So for the 2023 audit, we expressed an unmodified opinion on the county's financial statements. What this is essentially saying is that the financial statements are fairly presented in all material respects in accordance with accounting principles generally accepted in the United States of America. And as part of our audit procedures, we're required to gain an understanding of the county's internal control process. As part of that process, we didn't find any deficiencies, and as a result, there was no management letter comment issued during the year. As part of the 2023 audit, there were 3 GASB statements or pronouncements that were required to be adopted, GASB 94, 96, and 99. They're outlined in footnote 18 of the financial statements or of the report on page 68. Excuse me, the adoption of these 3 statements did not have any impact on the county's financial statements. Jumping into the financial results, the governmental activities of the county ended the year with a net position deficit of $76.8 million. This $76.8 million is comprised of net investment in capital assets of a deficit of $34.6 million, restricted of $25 million, and unrestricted net position of deficit of $67.2 million. So this is a $16.7 million deficit decrease from the prior year, so that's a good thing. And the restricted $25 million net position that you're seeing there, that's comprised of it's funds restricted for grant programs for the county. Just a little bit about this. The information that this is derived is from pages 16 and 17, as well as page 18, the statement of net position and statement of activities for the county. This is essentially their entity-wide balance sheet and income statement for the county. And these balances are based on the economic resource measurement focus, which essentially is your full accrual basis of accounting. So this includes your long-term debt, long-term liabilities, pension, all of those things, leases, as well as your capital assets. And just some year-over-year changes to note. The counties saw a net pension increase of $41.2 million from 22 to 23. Although when you take into consideration the impact of the deferred inflows and deferred outflows, it really was actually a decrease of the deficit of $2.5 million. Long-term debt increased year over year. It was a net increase of $13.6 million with the issuance of the 2023 general obligation bonds and notes. They had, I think, the issuance of those bonds and notes were $25.6 million, and they had principal payments of $12 million. Although most of the proceeds were still unspent as of year end, so the net impact on net position was really minimal. But the big drivers that's for the $16.7 million decrease, revenues remained relatively flat year over year, but there was a decrease in expenditures, and that was really the big driver for the decrease of the deficit. General government, admin and judicial, as well as community development, as well as interest and long-term debt were the big drivers for the decrease in the expenses as well as the deficit that we saw. The next slide is really just a different way to show the revenues and expenses year over year, just another way of visualizing it. Again, revenues for 2023 ended the year with $280.3 million, with expenses at $263.7 million. And then 2022 there was revenues of $280.9 million and expenses of $272.7 million. So there was a decrease to the deficit last year, but a greater decrease to the deficit in 2023 as well. So it's trending in the right direction. Now to discuss the general fund, which is the main operating fund of the county. The governmental funds are on the modified accrual basis of accounting. So unlike the entity-wide, the government activities that we just discussed, this does not include your capital assets, your long-term liabilities because of the modified accrual basis of accounting. The balance sheet and income statement for the general fund can be found on pages 19 and 21 of the county's report. The general fund ended the year with a total fund balance of $19.8 million. This is an increase of $3.9 million from the prior year. That $19.8 million fund balance is comprised of non-spendable of $1.9 million. That $1.9 million is mainly comprised of inventory and just prepaid assets. Assigned fund balance of $1.2 million, which is the county set aside for economic development, and an unassigned fund balance of $16.7 million. When we look at it year over year, total revenues were $123.1 million, which is $24.3 million under budget. Although when you look at that figure from a budget perspective, there are transfers included in there from the general fund to the debt service fund for the real estate taxes that are collected. So when you're just looking at it face value, it's a little skewed. So you kind of have to take a look at the debt service fund as well. Total expenditures ended the year at $119.2 million, which was $5.7 million under budget. And year over year, the general fund had an excess of revenues over expenditures of $3.9 million. And that's that $3.9 million year over year increase in the fund balance. Again, here's just some slides to show year over year changes. You can see that the revenue and other financing sources and uses for 2023 were $126.3 million, and in 22 was $121.3 million, with expenditures in 2023 were $122.4 million, and in 2022 were $131.1 million. So while we had a decrease in fund balance of $9.8 million in 2022 and 2023, based on how the procedures and processes the county put in place, we saw that increase, which is very good to see. The next slide is really just a trend for the last couple of years of showing, the bump up in the county's general fund balance. Just to note some other governmental funds, the debt service, mainly the debt service and the capital projects fund. The debt service fund ended the year with a deficit of $1.9 million. This was a net change in fund balance of roughly $974,000. Total revenues for the year in the debt service fund were $18.9 million, and total expenditures were $19.8 million. The capital projects fund ended the year with a fund balance of $26.4 million, which was a net change, an increase of $25.9 million, which I'll explain to you in a minute. Total revenues were $12.5 and total expenditures were $12.2. In the other financing sources and uses, the capital projects fund, that's where the debt proceeds are sitting, so that's why you're seeing that significant increase. But just plain revenues and expenditures were mainly flat, but the other financing sources and uses, that 25.6 from the 2023 bond and note are sitting in there as well. And lastly, just to touch on the fiduciary funds, the county's pension trust fund. In 2023, it ended the year with a total net position of $200.1 million, which was a nice increase of $18.7 million year over year, mainly just capturing market gains. They had additions of $35.7 million and deductions like pension benefits and such of roughly $17 million. Some future considerations. Again, I know I mentioned the GASBs in footnote 18, I believe, earlier in my presentation. In 2024, the GASB or the county will have to look into adopting, I think, compensated absences, and which is GASB 101 and 100, which is accounting for accounting changes. won't really have significant impacts on the county, but we'll work with Dave and his team to make sure that gets implemented and reported properly. I guess there are no questions, so. Okay.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks, Tim. I just have a few questions. So the first one is, in terms of having a presentation like this, would you consider that a best practice, and do you do that in other counties that you audit, having a public presentation like this?
I think it's a mix, Bill. Some counties will have just a private meeting with the commissioners and chief clerk and finance staff. Others want it presented. I think it all depends. It's not a one size fits all.
Okay. Can you talk to us about any improvements that you've seen in terms of the timeliness of the audit? I know since we took over last year, we've put a big emphasis on trying to get the audit done on time, and I know Mr. Bolzoni has gone to great lengths to make sure that we're moving in that direction. So can you speak to that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think when we look at 22 compared to 23, I saw great improvement in 23. I know bringing in Bob Dean into Dave's staff, as well as hiring an additional individual to facilitate. Bob was great, and then between the consultant, Bob, and Dave working together, a lot of the information, the timeliness of responses and such was fantastic. So we saw a much greater response and feedback in 23 compared to 2022. And I think getting another year under Bob's belt, I know he just started earlier last year. I'm looking forward to the 2024 audit to really continue with that momentum and efficiency.
That's great.
Yeah.
From an audit perspective, what are some of the greatest sensitivities in the various areas of the audit relative to when a rating agency looks at it, or banks, things like that?
Yeah, I think the general fund balance, which I know has been you guys have been focusing on getting the reserves and the general fund up, as well as just the finance staff and the results from my experiences, which all things are trending in the right direction. Getting and I feel like if we continue on this path, the 2024 audit will get done, hopefully by 12/31. I think if we can. That's what we're shooting for, and that it's only going to look better in the eyes of the rating agencies. So yeah. Great.
Thank you. Any questions, Commissioner Chermak?
Well, first, Dave, do you have anything you'd like to add, or you?
No, I think Tim did a very good job providing an overview of the audit results. You certainly can do a deep dive into any number of categories that you wanted to. Because there's always a lot more behind the numbers. But just in terms of an overview,
Yeah,
I think that was really provided very well.
yeah, no, I agree, and and I know back, you have to go back a couple years, but you were relatively new and certainly understaffed, so getting this done was not an easy task, getting the information to get this completed, but, oh, that's not working? No. But, hopefully the next one we'll have a lot sooner so that we can utilize it a little bit better. But I think we're on the right track. And, and back in 2023, we were still coming out of a pandemic. So to me, some of the numbers that are in this audit were kind of remarkable that we did as well as we did, considering. But so I look forward to, getting the next, our newest audit sooner so that we can use it. And, but I think it was a good job, and I know a couple of my finance team people are here, and we've gone over it in depth, and I know they've had questions and we've gotten answers, but good job, and I appreciate coming today and explaining everything.
Thank you. Happy to do it.
Thank you. With that, this public caucus is adjourned. Thank you very much.